So the path to me running Hawke Media was sort of interesting, and like most entrepreneurs, probably not what someone would expect right off the bat. At an early age, I really liked the idea of working for myself. My first job was at a golf course where I learned how to mow lawns and take care of greens and rake sand traps and do really sexy things like use a weed whacker around a pond. But I did learn how to take care of grass. So then I started mowing lawns in my neighborhood. I grew up in Minnesota. And when I was 15, I didn't have a driver's license, but my friend Brent did. So we started mowing lawns for more people in our neighborhood. And then I started passing out flyers, and then we had more clients, and then we bought more equipment, and then we ended up growing a pretty decent business before we graduated from high school. So that was my first foray into entrepreneurship, and I liked the idea of working for myself. Went to college. I ended up being an architect in Boston. I really loved the marriage of math and discrete data with creative and the idea of like designing space. I always thought it was pretty psychedelic to like have something in your head and then be in that thing that was in your head. So I got into architecture. I moved to California to be a West Coast architect after my stint in Boston. And I ended up working for a direct sales company called Cutco, which, if you're watching this in the United States, you've probably been recruited in some way, shape, or form by Cutco. And so I did well there. I got promoted into a management position and then ended up opening an office and running a district and sort of ascending through the ranks and learning a ton about personal and professional development. One of my favorite things about that whole experience was what a massive emphasis there is on culture and personal and professional development and rewarding high performers and doing well by doing good and those kinds of things. And I did that for about 5 years. Learned a ton, and then I wanted to work in the nonprofit space. So I ran a nonprofit organization called the World Business Academy, whose entire mission is around redefining the role of business as a social partner. So this was founded in the 80s by a bunch of really smart people, great group of fellows and a great board, and I had a chance to work with some really amazing people and continue their mission, and I learned a lot about the nonprofit space. One of the things that I learned is I didn't really want to work in the nonprofit space. So the man that founded that organization in the 80s had also invested in a music company, an artist development company for musicians. And that business was having some trouble growing and making money. They were hemorrhaging their investors' money. So I took over as COO of that company and ended up bringing it to profitability and helping a lot of artists kind of grow and quit their day job. Our win condition for the musicians that we worked with was just getting to a point where you can quit your day job. From that experience, I met my now business partner, Eric Huberman, and he was working as a consultant in the marketing space after having some success in e-commerce and selling a couple of e-commerce companies that he and I had worked on just sort of on the fringes with each other. So at the end of 2013, he was working as a consultant under the name Hawke Media, so people were writing checks to a business instead of Eric. And we had had a conversation about maybe making this thing real. We consider our birthday January 2014. We started working together, and that is how I became sort of the co-founder and COO of Hawke Media. Even though the path is pretty wild, I'm really grateful. It feels like everything sort of led me to here, because I went to design school, learned a lot about creative, I learned a lot about data and about managing a sales team when I was doing that. I learned a ton about how to get buy-in and put on events in the nonprofit space, and now in marketing, which I've been doing my entire life sort of subconsciously. Hawke Media is this perfect marriage of data and analytics and really discrete information with these creative harebrained ideas. And my business partner and I have a nice symbiotic relationship when it comes to operator versus promoter. He's very much waving the flag, beating the drum, out there kissing babies and shaking hands. And I really love process and data and people and building a culture. And one of the greatest gifts that I had from that experience with Cutco was this idea of creating a world-class personal and professional development opportunity, which is what I'm all about now in my role here, trying to make the best possible place for people to learn and grow. We say it's the most comfortable place you're ever going to be uncomfortable. My favorite thing about what I do is just the challenge. I'm wired wrong because I don't like easy. I think that as soon as I feel like something's easy or I've got it figured out, I worry that I'm the dumbest person in the room or that I'm not leveraging my talent. There's a famous American runner that has big posters up in the Nike offices, and he said that to give anything less than the best is to sacrifice the gift, right? The challenge of this place is so exciting, trying to grow a business and keep it on the rails without any funding, without any debt, and continue to like solve hard problems and figure out how to manage client demands with people and what they need from life and salaries and personal and professional growth. It's just really challenging, and I love the challenge. Part of the reason that our pricing and our contracts are structured the way that they are is so that we can service entrepreneurs that are trying to grow that might not have access to great marketing resources elsewhere. We get asked all the time, hey, when are you going to go up market? When are you going to charge more? When are you going to do all these things? And we have big clients. We work with Alibaba and Red Bull and Verizon and huge companies. But I still love the growth stage companies. I love working with entrepreneurs that have an idea, that want to get something off the ground, and being able to provide them with that resource is really, really quite rewarding. So I get a kick out of that. And one of the greatest gifts as an entrepreneur is I get to pick who I work with. So I work with fucking rad people. I'm like building this crazy culture of people that are super smart and work really hard and know how to have a good time and get along with each other. But at any stage, business, personal, professional, whatever, I think having a purpose, having a sense of why you're moving through the world and what you're moving towards is really important. For me, I'm fortunate that I sort of figured that out in my mid to late 20s. I think most people take longer than that. I think some people are really good about figuring out exactly who they are and what they're about when they're younger, but for me it happened in my mid to late 20s. But having a purpose and being about something so that there's always a litmus test for whether or not you're making choices that are in alignment with like your truth and what you're about. It seems sort of Pollyanna these days to say like you want to work with the same people forever, but I do. I want to build a tribe. I want to work with people for a long time. And so my choices in business and how I interact with people are generally a reflection of that. I think that there's tons of great information out there from people that are much smarter than I about like how to live a good life. But I think being intentional, there's a great book called The 4 Agreements, which I think everyone should read. I read 3 books when I graduated from high school when I was 17. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, The 4 Agreements, and Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. And those 3 were like sort of the cornerstones of what became like what I was about personally, or just being thoughtful and aware. I think in business, you know, on the other side of the camera, it might be easy to go, oh man, that looks super cool, and like you're running this huge company. It's crazy. Like I would caution people against going out and doing this unless like you're ready for a decade of tearing your hair out and banging your head against the wall, because it is really fucking hard. There are much easier ways to earn a living, and it's not like super sexy. It's not always the most fun thing in the world. But there are some pretty serious peaks next to those valleys as well, so that's really good. Get good people around you, you know, surround yourself with smart people, surround yourself with some freaks, surround yourself with some like normal people, get varied opinions. I'm one of these people, ironically, running a company that does a lot of social media advertising. I don't really fuck with Instagram or Facebook or any of that stuff, just because I find that comparing myself to other people or seeing what is essentially a self-promotion vehicle for somebody's social life is just not something that I'm really into. But I do really enjoy fostering relationships with people that have differing opinions or differing backgrounds. It's really easy to live in an echo chamber. I'm here in Los Angeles, California, and 95% of the people that are in this building are probably aligned politically, religiously, socioeconomically. And that's something that you need to be aware of, I think, as a person, is just make sure that you've got a diverse set of inputs and experiences so that you've got a well-rounded idea of what's going on in the world. Work hard. I don't know where this culture of like you know, doing as little as possible became sexy, work hard. It's really rewarding. There's two pains in life. There's the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. Discipline's a lot easier to stomach for me, so I think people should work hard. Parting thoughts for anybody that might stumble across this, assuming that you're an entrepreneur or working in marketing or trying to better your professional outcomes. I just think that there is no substitute for time with good people and being intentional and being authentic and having integrity in the way that you work with, whether it's employees or partners or vendors or clients. The idea of like getting over on somebody or like snaking somebody out of money or time or any of those things, it's gross, it'll make you feel bad, and it's also just like not a great way that we as a society should evolve. So be nice to each other and do cool shit.